am beyond excited to be here. I don't know how many of you know this, but I used to work here at NBC. I pretty much grew up here from the age of 17. I could not leave this building. They had to kick me out. Interned here and then worked here as a news associate with WNBC. I'm so happy and honored that Sandra Rice, who's the director of the Emma Bowen Foundation, is here tonight. If you can stand and wave. She's the director of a program that allows minorities who are interested in media to get paid internships at top media companies, and I was part of that. And then my HR person, my first HR person ever, who literally showed me the ropes and groomed me, is here. Her name is Kèla. Is she still here? Oh, okay. So I'm beyond excited. This is a very full circle moment for me. If all of our panelists can come and just grab a seat, and then we'll get started. Thank you so much to YPN for partnering with us to host this event. Thank you to Genie Box for partnering with us on the giveaway. I hope that everybody enters, and also her agenda has some good, fun stuff to give away too. So hopefully all of you are taking advantage of that, and I hope that during that time of the reception that you all were able to interact and network with each other. I know so often we're so heads down and just involved in our day-to-day and our different segments and industries, we didn't get a chance to really look up and see who else in our peer group can actually help us to move ahead. And I think that those people are really in this room today, so I hope that you all got a chance to connect. So my name is Ranisha Bing. I am the founder and CEO of Her Agenda. Her Agenda is a digital media platform that is working to bridge the gap between ambition and achievement for millennial women. Our motto is no one ever slows her agenda, which means whatever your goal is, go for it and don't let anyone or anything stop you. So we're on social media, so like Mary said, make sure that you're updating your followers with the hashtag HerAgendaYPN. We're at Her Agenda on Twitter, Instagram, all of that. So let's get down to what you guys came here for tonight. The topic on tonight's agenda is mastering your media career. So what does it actually take to make it in media? It's a field that's always changing. You never know what to expect. There's always just different rules. There's no blueprint, essentially. And it's one of those industries where your relationships and your reputation can really make or break your career. So luckily, we have the honor of spending this evening and having a very in-depth conversation with 5 amazing media professionals who essentially made their way from entry-level employees to powerhouses. So
I started at the top.
So we'll be talking to them about how they navigate an industry with no blueprint, how they got started, and advice that they have for you, someone who wants to not only have a career in media, but have a strong career in the field of media. So before we actually jump into giving these amazing panelists a chance to talk, I actually want to ask you guys a question. So how many of you, raise your hand if you always wanted to work in media? That's quite a few of you, wow, that's incredible. How many of you just fell into it and you're here and you love it, but you just fell into it you weren't expecting? That's awesome. And then how many of you, and don't be shy, how many of you are still looking to get your foot in the door in the media industry?
Raise an eye. That's how you get your foot in the door.
All right, so with that in mind, let's just dive into this conversation. I am so excited to introduce our panel tonight. We have with us to my left, Val Boreland, who is the EVP of Content Strategy and Acquisitions at SyFy and USA Networks. Next to her, we have Alex Ficquette. Did I say your last name properly? I didn't ask you.
You got it.
Okay. And Alex is the audience producer for Megyn Kelly Today, and he has a really, really incredible story. Everybody here has an incredible story, but in particular, someone with a non-traditional background. And I'm really excited for you to share that. Next to him, we have Kèla Walker, Emmy-nominated TV host and producer. Next to her, we have Christina Swartz, President and General Manager for Telemundo.
Hello.
And last but not least, we have Valari Staab, the President of NBCUniversal owned stations. Let's give a round of applause to our panel. So just to set the tone, this is a conversation, so feel free to jump in if you feel like something's really relevant to you. Don't feel like we have to go down the line. If you don't have anything to ask the conversation, feel free to be like, all right, well, I'll like chime in on the next one. Don't feel pressured. So the first opening question is just, the media is a tough business, and I think now more than ever, it's under so much scrutiny. What really motivates you every day to continue to get up and do your job?
Okay, first, sorry.
The money.
The media has always been a tough business. It has never been easy. Yes, it's getting harder, but the internet has changed the entire world. It hasn't just changed our industry, it's changed every industry. It's changed the lettuce industry. If you grow lettuce, your life has changed. So whatever you pick as a career, you're gonna have challenges. And that's part of what makes a career interesting and fun, is figuring out with the changing world how you adapt and change with it. So there's no such thing as picking a career where it stays the same. So yes, our career is challenging, but what isn't? So the thing that I've always loved about media is no 2 days are the same. It's an interesting career. You know what's going on in the world when you're part of media. You know what the future will probably look like. So I think part of staying motivated is that you're really a part of the changing world.
I think for me, it's also, I don't like routine. I don't like 9 to 5. So every day is different. And we can make a difference as a television station. Every single day we touch somebody's life.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off that, I'm an audience producer, so I'm on the front lines of seeing the people who consume everything we put out there every single day. And for me, it's super rewarding. And you really do, we were just chatting backstage, that when Hoda took this new position, I heard her talking about it, and she was saying it's not lost on her that we're speaking to people at their most vulnerable times. We're delivering them difficult news, and the Today Show in particular is on very early in the morning. It's in their household, a part of their daily routine, and that's the responsibility of all of the media, is to deliver that. And I just took that to heart, and when I see these people and meet these people every single day and the connections they have to our show, whether it be stories that impact them, or the anchors and the hosts themselves, or whether it be looking outside of Studio 1A into New York City and the place where dreams can come true, the show means different things to different people. And that, being a part of that is what is, to me, is most important. You see it, you see the lives you affect, the change you create, and the dreams that people have when they consume this.
Yeah. That's a good perspective, because from the outside, it seems like the media is always just under attack. Everybody's always criticizing it, and it just seems like, why would anyone today want to go into media?
But don't we live in a world now where everything is criticized? I mean, so that's what social media has done. Everyone is whether, regardless of what industry you're in, it could be the financial industry, the political scene, the music industry, the television movie industry, authors, everyone.
Yeah.
You're criticized on your social media feed. So it's just,
What's your main motivation? You're on the executive side.
My main motivation is that I love what I do. Like, I have such a passion for TV. Like, I could sit with any one of you and talk about what your favorite TV show is for an hour, but you'd have to listen to me talk about my favorite shows for an hour as well. And I can geek out.
What are your top 3 favorite shows?
I can't do that right now. I'm too on the spot. I have 2 on the spot. I can't do that.
We'll get back to you.
Yes. I'll just throw this out there just because I just watched it upstairs before I came down, is that I'm super into Grownish. I don't know if you've seen that yet. That is cute. Like, they're doing a good job with it. So I'm impressed with that show. It's not my favorite. I have so many more, but that's the one that's. But again, like, I could sit there and talk to any person who raised their hand about like why I love that show so much, and I get to do that every day with my own shows, our own shows that we do on USA and SyFy, as well as everything at NBCUniversal, as well as talking about other shows, because we have to keep on top of the competition, as well as talking about the movie industry, because we got to be on top of what movies releasing so we can coincide with that buzz and things like that. I have to talk about sports because that's competitive.
Kid,
like,
were you always wired this way? Were you always gravitating towards
I only know that I was retrospectively. Like, I didn't know in the time, in the moment, that like, I'm going to be a TV executive. Like, I look back at some of the things I did. I tell the story a lot, so if you've ever read a bio or seen any video on me, please bear with me. But like, as a kid, I I have to start out. Back in the day, we didn't have electronic program guides on the TV where you just pressed your remote and you saw what was happening. You actually got the TV guide in the mail that gave you the grid of what was on TV every day. And I used to get that TV guide as a kid, grab like my dad's highlighter and go through every night and highlight all the shows I was gonna watch. And I was like, God, I was such a loser. Like, I can't believe I did that, you know? But then I look back and I'm like, that's my career now, is like scheduling shows and keeping on top of the competition. And I obviously had a passion for it at a young age that I wasn't able to identify at that age, which is why now anytime any college asks me to speak, I always go to speak, because even in college I didn't know what I do was a job, you know?
Yeah.
So it's great for me to educate people to know, like, here's an opportunity for you that you might not know that you could enjoy. And again, that's what motivates me. I enjoy coming to work. It is.
Yeah.
I enjoy coming to work every single day. I happen to love the people I work with. I think they're smart. They motivate me because I feel like I'm learning every day. Yeah.
I love full circle moments. It's just funny how you notice in hindsight how things add up and make sense.
Yeah.
And I actually want to go to you, Alex, because you have such an incredible full circle moment story where you, like 12 years ago, were a teenager in the back of the Today Show Plaza for a Mary J. Blige concert, and now, now you're Alex in the Plaza. How did that happen? You're like a teenager screaming at a concert one day, and then now you're a producer, and you're the person who's like leading the charge for like all of those other teenagers who were screaming on the Plaza.
Yeah, and I never knew I wanted this career. So I was one of the people that raised my hands. I never knew I wanted to work in media. I never thought I would. But you're right. When I talked about people, you know, what the shows mean to them, what the media means to them, I was one of those people that looked through Studio 1A and saw New York and the glitz and the glam and always wanted to live there. So on my very first trip to New York, which I begged my mom for years, we came for one weekend for the lighting of the Christmas tree, and then I dragged her to the Today Show Plaza the next day, and Mary J. Blige was performing, and we were like, some of the people, after working on the Plaza, I now know you arrive early, you wait in line, but we strolled up late, we were way in the back, saw nothing. But I was there, and I was like, this is amazing, and this is so cool. And then, you know, a few years ago, Mary J. Blige came back, performed on the Plaza, and I was like, I cannot believe that I am now standing on the Plaza, working here, having been there. So I think for me, what's important is I remember who I was then, and I take that with me. And so when I was the Plaza producer before what I'm doing now, and Megyn Kelly with the audience, I remember what that feeling is like, and that's what's so important. But back to your question, I never thought I wanted to do this.
Like, how did you transition from that?
So I finally followed my heart to move to New York City. I was going to school at University of Florida, and I transferred, and I went to a school called Parsons here. I majored not in media at all, design and management. I went to go work. This is a very long story, but I'll make it quick. I went to go work for a consulting company called IDEO that really helped companies come up with sort of the next thing, like the next business platform, the next product they might do, the next service they might design. And long story short, the Today Show did some work with IDEO to actually look at the Plaza. So it was a time when they were beginning to look at everything. They were number 2. And sort of just, that's when you can actually be most creative. That's when you can start breaking rules. That's when you have the freedom to say, all right, let's get back to number 1, and what can we do to get there? And so the Orange Room was launched, and they revamped many aspects of the show into the amazing show that it is today. And one of the areas they took a closer look at was the Plaza, saying this is a cornerstone of the show. It's iconic. People come. They know they're there. It makes us who we are. Maybe we should, look a bit deeper there, and maybe there's more to build on that. So this company that I worked for at the time was hired to help them do that research and help them come up with these ideas. And I just totally fell in love with the job. We were coming to the Plaza every morning. I was falling in love with all the people I was meeting, all the people who worked at the show. And it was kind of like a fairy tale when it came to an end. They asked if I wanted to stay on board and if I wanted to help bring some of these ideas to life and be that person. And I, of course, obviously said yes. I will say, like, one of the things that I live my life by is, will I always look back and wonder what if? And I was really happy doing what I was doing. I thought that was what I wanted to do, and at the time of my life, that is what I wanted to do. But I knew I'd always look back. I'd never be able to live with myself. I needed to journey down that road and see if something was there. It was an itch I needed to scratch. And so I did it, and fast forward 5 years later, I did 4 years on the Plaza. It was amazing. I didn't have any training in this, but when it's meant for you, you'll learn as you go, and you'll say yes to everything, and you'll tell them, yes, I know how to do it, and I can take on that project, and sure thing, and you'll build friends along the way who will help you, who will then, crap, I just got assigned this assignment that I said yes to and I'm really excited about it, but I have no idea where to begin. Like, what systems do I even need? You know, you make friends, they help you. And you help each other along the way. And, you know,
The role has really evolved. Like, were you initially on air from day one, or?
Oh yeah, no, and then the on-air thing came, and completely different. My benchmark for success is, am I still having fun? And so this role didn't exist in the same fashion before I came along for the Plaza. And that can be hard when you're in a new role because there is no benchmark, there is no progression, there is no model you can follow, there's no one you can look to say like, well, what'd they do after 2 years? Or what happened here? How am I supposed to be growing? And I was really lucky that the Today Show embraced that and helped me figure out what was next. But when I would come to that question, that moment when someone would ask me what do I want to do next, or when I would think after 2 years, maybe what do I want to do next, I would take a pause and think, am I still having fun? Am I still really excited to get up and go to work? And the answer was yes. And fortunately, I stayed. You know, I never looked elsewhere. Like, I never went out searching. I was like, this will grow. I have faith that this will grow. I don't know how, but it will. I love the people I work for. I have great managers that are rooting for me.
Yeah.
I believe in the show,
I'm
and
sure
this
you
will
have
grow.
counsel and mentors too, who are now better understanding of what you do and where you could go.
Yeah, well, and then so when this opportunity came along, when Megyn Kelly Today was getting launched, and for the first time ever, the Today Show was going to have a studio audience, an indoor audience, like, it was the perfect next opportunity for me, and it was having that faith that the next opportunity will come and that they will find it for you and you'll find it for yourself.
That's interesting to keep in mind. The next opportunity might not exist yet, and
Yeah.
just like keep
You don't
doing
see
what
it.
you do,
It's
keep
not in
excelling, and
the
then
foreground.
when that opportunity comes, they'll automatically be like, okay, this person is perfect.
Or you
because-
create the opportunity for yourself.
or that, yeah.
And know when to create the opportunity.
Right,
I think
that's
sometimes
right.
you get a feeling and you know when to seize onto it. So
Yeah.
you'd ask like when, you know, I do little bits here and there on air. It's certainly not the main part of my job, but it's something I'm interested in. And it's something, again, you raise your hand at when the first opportunity comes along, and you grow and you learn and you make a friend who can help you. And those opportunities still start to come. And when I transitioned off of, I sort of became known as this Alex on the Plaza character for the earlier hours and was doing different digital things. And when Megyn Kelly Today came along, I was nervous about leaving that behind because all of a sudden it was a brand that I had started to organically build. And these opportunities that were coming. And if I took this next job, I'd be off the Plaza and that brand wouldn't exist. And then sure enough, we did Megyn's Month of Mary in December. And you know, I was the conductor that brought the gifts out because that's what I love to do. Like, I've always tried to, I love giving things away. I live for a giveaway. I live for a giveaway, which is what I loved about the Plaza so much. And now I get to do it.
Giveaway goodies for us today.
I mean, I
Next
didn't
time.
bring anything. I'm sorry. Sorry. Next time, I'll
Budget
drive in the train. I'll drive in the train.
So I want to definitely get back to you on like the whole notion of creating opportunity. But before you can create an opportunity, you guys know more than anyone else that there's a lot of moments where you have to humble yourself before you can even have the chance to create an opportunity for yourself. So if you guys can think back to some of your early humbling moments and humbling experiences, what was your most humbling experience early in your career, and what did you learn from it?
So, go ahead.
I would say probably a humbling experience for me, being on air and both in front of the camera as well as behind the camera. I remember sort of early on in my career, and I'll always get someone who looks at me and they're like, you look so familiar, like, how do I know you? And I was like, I'm on TV. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not it. And I was like, oh. And I mean, I took from that moment, like, to never just be so presumptuous and so boastful, if you will, in what I do. And to this day, if someone goes, I know you, and I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know. Like, it humbled me in such a way that I'm not always like, I'm this television producer. You know, I never do that anymore. I sort of am really humble in the experience that I am, the career field that I have. So that very early on put me in my place. But I'm not out there like, yes, hi, I'm on TV. Like, yeah, no, sit down.
9/11 to me.
Wow.
Very humbling moment. Where you have to keep on going and be strong and be respectful and focus on news and delivering, but at the same time controlling your emotions and being passionate enough to the employees and the viewers who had lost family members, and that changed my life forever.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's definitely valuable.
I suppress any memories that make me feel bad. So I don't remember any humbling moments, but when I feel most humble, and this always happens because there's always someone who's smarter than you, is when I'm in the room with someone who's smarter than me. And I just feel like, you know, you can feel like, wow, I got this, I know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
I'm super smart. I got this, and then you go in the room and you hear someone just spit out brilliance, and you're like, wow, like, you know,
Yeah.
it's like you realize, like, okay, you know, and it inspires you. It doesn't make me feel bad about myself. It makes me feel excited that,
Yeah.
like, oh, there's still more to learn from that person or someone else or what
Yeah.
have you. So, yeah.
So one theme that I've noticed here is just saying yes to things and being ready for opportunities as they come, because we live in this time and we're in this industry where you never know what to expect. But I'm also curious because each and every one of you have very strong reputations and careers in your field. What's one trait or one lesson that helped you to really develop that strong career?
Hard work.
Yeah.
Is it simply working hard though? Because something that I've noticed as a professional is like, it's not like school. You don't automatically get rewarded for hard
Yeah.
work. You have to also be willing to.
Well, you have to deliver on results, but you
Uh-huh.
have to work hard. You have to deliver on the results. You have to know what your goals are and what the company expects or your bosses expect from you,
Yeah.
but you have to work hard.
And you have to go beyond what's
Above,
asked
yeah.
of you and try to learn more than what is expected of you to learn, you know, in any area. I also think part of it is being honest with the people that work for you and with you and that you work for, and direct, and to try to keep, you know, we're in the communication business, but communication is what hurts most companies, is bad communication. So really constantly trying to break down walls around the organization and keep people communicating well, I think is a huge part of it.
And I've always sort of operated from this place of, it sounds cliche, but be mindful of your character and your reputation will watch after itself. And really, you know, in doing that hard work and going above and beyond and really being mindful of my character, every opportunity I've gotten has been because someone has heard about my work or, you know, wanted to work with me because of something that they've seen. So again, being mindful of my character and my reputation has always watched out for itself.
Yeah, and having fun. For
Yeah.
me, it's been having fun and being easy to work with. I mean, I'm at a much lower level than these fabulous panelists.
please.
And I think for me, it's I've tried to the biggest compliment you can give me is that I was fun to work with, or you want to come back. You know,
Yeah.
like I made your life a little bit easier. And that's the way I've always seen my job. It's there as an audience producer. You know, we're supporting the rest of the show. We're all supporting each other, but I'm there to make their lives easier. So if you can do that, if you can have a good time with your work and you can make those around you's lives easier, people will come back and ask you to work with them more.
True.
And also be open. I think that you can't just come to your job, do your work really hard, go home, and that be it. I think you have to network yourself to make sure that people understand that you have an interest in where you are. And it's not just like I'm punching a clock and then I'm leaving. Bye, everyone. Hope you're okay. If you're going to help someone out and be like, hey, you look like you're bogged down. I was about to leave, but can I help
Yeah.
do something for you before I go? That person will never forget that. And I think that sometimes you have to do a little bit of work to get recognized and not just assume, well, I worked hard. How come I didn't get that promotion? Or I had a good interview. Why didn't I get that job? Sometimes it takes a little bit more to, like, on your part to kind of put yourself
I
out
think
there.
all those moments add up.
There
Yeah.
are no job descriptions in media.
No.
Like
Right.
what you think your job
Right.
is not everything that your
Right.
job is, and you need to be open
You're like, I signed up
to.
for this. How am
Yeah.
I doing this? Like, you have to be open to
100%.
everything that comes your
And I
way.
think
Yeah.
the moment
Yeah.
that you say, well, that's not my job, that's the
Forget
moment
it.
that you
Trouble.
just signed your, like,
Yeah, forget
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
the
you
moment
got
you need to
it.
leave.
Forget it.
Yeah.
I think no job is too big,
Yeah.
no matter what your title is.
yeah.
And no job is
It's
too
too
small.
small.
No job is too small. I'm sorry, I meant to say too small, not too big. No job is too small.
Yeah.
And you have to be honest
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Valerie, just as the president, I wanted to know, you talked a little bit about keeping communication channels open. And in a newsroom, we're in an open environment, but there's also a hierarchy. And so sometimes it might be hard for like certain people to communicate if they feel like it's not their place. How do you work to really keep communication channels open within newsrooms and also across the country between newsrooms?
Well, we try to set we try to really set what we want the culture to be in the division. And I spend a lot of time at the stations. We obviously have a lot of stations. We just added 10, so we have 40 stations now. And they're all over the United States and Puerto Rico. So it's I spend a lot of time traveling. But I think it's important to actually go to the stations and to meet people at all levels of the station, not just meet with top management and walk out of the building. But I do skip level management meetings where basically I talk to people about the culture that we want to set in the division, how we want to manage, how we want, what we want people to think about us as stations and the experience we want people to have working at our stations. So I think it's important that the person on the top really set that agenda and really live it and really look out for people that aren't following it and reach out to them. No young person is instantly a great manager. So there's 4,000 people in my division. So there's no way I have excellent managers that do everything right every day. But my job is to look for the ones who are high potential, good people that do good work, but they're faltering somewhere in their management, and figure out how to get them, through that and to the next level. It's growing people to become good managers and keeping an eye out for them. It's knowing you're not going to be perfect, your division's never going to be perfect, you're never going to be perfect, but constantly looking for ways to permeate that culture. And then, the general managers all know the type of culture we're trying to create, so they do that at their level. And then the department heads do it in each of their departments. So it's, it's sending it through the organization in every direction. It's hard. It takes it takes time to build a culture. It was a very different culture in the owned station division when I took over than we have now. So, it takes time and work, but you can get there.
Worth it in the end. It does take a lot of effort.
Yeah, at the end of the day, a manager's job is to get the best work out of their people. And what happens is you get promoted because you're really good at your job, but you get promoted to the one, you get promoted to a level where several people answer to you, and then it's no longer about your work. It's about you getting work out of other people. And that's where most people falter in their career, because they know they do it right, and when they work with other people, they're more worried about getting those people to do it the way they want it done. And that's not your job anymore. Your job is to get the best product out of those people, but by letting them find their way to the end product. And that tends to be a tough transition for people in their career. So we try to really nurture those first-time and second-time managers when they're first having to experience that, because in our business, most people, especially in news, get promoted because they're really good writers or really good producers. They don't have a lot of management training usually the first time they get a management job.
That's a good point. And I think too, I just want to dial back for a second. Before you get a chance to get that promotion, before you get a chance to become a manager, you have to really go above and beyond, as everyone has said, and you have to really do your job, master that, and then figure out, where you can add value, what else can you do. But sometimes it's hard for entry-level employees to really do that, to find that hole, and then maybe get the buy-in from the higher up to present a new idea and essentially get it taken seriously. So what are your tips or pieces of advice for entry-level employees to really just have the confidence and know the timing in terms of pitching a new idea and being able to get it heard and taken seriously?
I say first and foremost, do your research, because I think sometimes, a lot of times, you say entry level, but someone who's new or maybe more junior in their area has lots of ideas or things they've always thought, oh, why don't we ever do this?
Yeah.
But they don't know a lot of the reasons, well, why haven't we done this? Sometimes they're actually legit reasons, not reasons that you can't argue, but before you pitch a story or pitch an idea or pitch change, understand why it hasn't happened before, what the obstacles could be, and be prepared to say that in the, if someone comes to me and I can shoot down every idea you have, then you haven't done your research. Like, be prepared on what she might say this and what's my response going to be, So do your research going in, and then hopefully finding someone, if it's not your direct boss or a peer or someone who you can be a confidant in a way of can I pitch this to you? How do you think? Could you help me get to the, the person that needs to hear this kind of thing? I mean, you also have to feel lucky enough to work in a place that accepts ideas from every level,
Yeah.
I happen to be in a place that good ideas can come from anywhere is a mantra, so I think those of us who work at NBCUniversal feel lucky that is something that exists here.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys feel.
So we have a lot of interns. I think we're very fortunate to that. And if the intern has done their job, their homework, has a positive attitude, is prepared, a lot of them have an opportunity to be hired. And some of the best ideas that I've seen in the past 2 years have been from interns who see our operation are millennials.
Yeah.
And we'll ask, will this idea work or not? But the best presentation I saw with soccer, we're going to be the home of, we are the home of FIFA. And we had 2 interns in news that presented magnificent ideas, taking into account the community, news, and promotions, and sales. It was like a well-done package.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was going to say with that, like, and when I've pitched things, it's going above and beyond. It's not just like, here's this idea I have, but really doing the research, as she says, and laying it out. So it's really a no-brainer for your executive, whomever you're pitching it to, where it's kind of like, wow, you've shown me an example. You've kind of done a mock-up of everything. It's more than just this statement or this idea, but you've laid it out. And it makes it hard to say no when you've done the research,
Absolutely.
when you've gone above and beyond, when you've laid it out in a way. It was like, wow, okay, well, what do you need to move forward?
Yeah.
It makes it really easy to get
And
a yes.
also accept that every idea is not necessarily going to work. Like there might be a real legit reason that your really good idea is not going to happen.
Yeah.
If that happens, don't feel defeated or discouraged that like, oh, this place is horrible, they don't accept new ideas. Like just get on to the next idea
Yeah.
or understand the challenge and create or maybe tailor that idea a little bit more to
Absolutely.
satisfy it. So,
And you don't always have to set your sights at the very top. Like if you have an idea and you're struggling on getting into, the glass corner office to get it, just look for who will listen to your idea. Like it might not be the president of the company or your top boss. It might be someone who's like half a rung above you, but go to them, then they can level it up. And then
Yeah.
you can partner and get your idea through that way. You don't always have to. Sometimes your job is to make those above you their lives easier and them look good, and that's
Absolutely.
okay. And that person might just be, like I said, a half step above you, but have them mentor you through it.
That's very important. And then in Kèla too, you have a lot of experience with this, like pitching concepts and content
Yeah.
and ideas because of your role at
Constantly
NYC TV, and then you also freelance for
Yeah.
different media companies. So you're always in this position where you have to kind of sell
Constantly.
people on something that you know
Right.
makes sense.
I'm like, how can I go to Paris for free? I'm constantly pitching. Yeah, I mean, again, you want to make it make sense for whomever you're pitching it to. You want to be on brand. You want to make sure that it's easy for them. It's easy to get a yes as opposed to that, hard no. And so I'm constantly researching, constantly thinking about the brand, the people that I'm pitching, the conversations that I'm going to have, and how I can do something that not only aligns with their brand, but also with my brand. So again, that is a no-brainer.
Yeah, definitely. And I also want to talk to you. All of you guys seem to thrive off of not having a routine and for there not to be any rules. But I want to just play devil's advocate for a little bit. Millennials, a lot of us like freedom, but within certain constraints. We like to have benchmarks that we know we're going to hit, and we know that we're like, checking the box. We know that we're like on the right path, right track. But we're in a field where that doesn't exist. So in your career, how do you know which benchmarks that you need to hit, and then how did you craft a career that made sense for you, and how did you know that you were making progress in a field where it's like progress is not defined?
in my field, progress is defined. I wake up, sorry, I touched my mic, sorry, Sandra. Every day at 4 o'clock, we get ratings. And that, that defines our daily success, and not that it makes or breaks. Each day makes or breaks, but it kind of, you learn from that every day, and that's a benchmark for us of like, how well did you do that night before?
Okay.
And then we're looking 3 days out and 7 days out and a month out, like how well did we, because we don't live in an age where people watch live TV necessarily. It's on their DVR, they're watching on demand, they're watching on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think, at least for what I do for a living, and I'm not a millennial, but I need structure.
Yeah.
So there is some structure there. I don't know if anyone feels like.
We're very structured. No,
Yeah.
we do have rules. We might not have routines, but we have rules.
Right.
We do the ratings. They come in earlier, 5 a.m., 5:30 I think it is now. We have sales, so we have to meet the revenue numbers and we have to meet the cash flow. So we do have a lot of benchmarks, and if you set the guidelines from the beginning, you know exactly if you're doing well or you're not doing well. So I started in sales. Either you bring in the money or you don't, and you have goals. Either you surpass your goal or you don't.
Yeah.
So it was very black and white.
I do think a lot of millennials struggle in media without there being now I'm a manager, now I'm a director,
Yeah.
now I need to be a VP, now I need to be an SVP. They see this pathway in their head, and they measure themselves against their friends that are in banking, where it's much more structured you get this and then you get that. And so, we have employees all the time that get very hung up on, but I've been in this job 2 years and I haven't been promoted. Where's my promotion? And television is different in that you sometimes are 3 or 4 years in the same job, and then you might make a really big jump. In our case, sometimes you go from working in the 52nd market to the second market, or you'll get some really big jump in your career. So it's not typically a do this 2 years, then do that, then do this. So I encourage the young people in our division not to get hung up on that. Get hung up on, are you still learning? Are you still developing? Are you bored with what you're doing and really need a new challenge? Or are you, if you're still growing and developing, don't worry so much, because you'll be ready for that big opportunity when it gets there. If you're bored, you're bored. If you're bored, you're bored, and you really should start looking at what the next thing is. And you should be broad about the possibilities of what that next step might be, because look at your skill set in a broad way. If you're a writer, there's many different jobs open to writing. If you're a producer, there's a lot of different kinds of producing. But if you really are bored and ready for that next step, try to take a real broad look at your skills and the possibilities that are out there. But I see the impatience, and I feel like I spend half my time going, it'll be fine. Just wait.
And I see everyone actively taking notes. So just a reminder, we're going to have the audience have a chance to ask questions. And so if you have a question, make sure you hold on to that, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Just a couple more questions that I have for the panel, and then I'll hand it over to you.
Can I say one thing off ballot, just as one
ahead.
quick example? I don't want to talk long, but I've been here 5 years and I've only had one real paper promotion.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't love my job and haven't
But you're happy.
grown a million ways and haven't been promoted in a ton of different ways. But on paper, only one. But you get it through responsibilities, through new tasks, through new assignments, through growth. There's so many other ways to be promoted and to grow than the title change.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to also go back. It's not about the title. I wish I could have business cards without a title.
Yeah.
It's really irrelevant. I really believe
People
that.
get way
True.
too hung up on titles.
Titles
Absolutely.
are not
Titles.
like if you
They're
go
not.
to like the SVOD services like Netflix and Amazon or whatever, their titles are like you would. If I'm an executive VP now, I would have to take a VP title to work someplace else. Like you can't get hung up in titles because it's different depending on where you are. So
And sometimes you have to go back
Yep.
and change,
Yep.
take a risk, and then you grow.
Alex hit
At
the
least
nail.
my path was not linear.
You hit the nail on the head for me earlier. Like for me, it comes back to like, are you happy? Because you can have a title, you can have all these different positions, and you can have this money, but are you happy? And so for me, that's what I'm asking myself at the end of the day. No matter what I'm doing, what makes me happy? And so that's what's most important, is to help me, with my success.
And by the way, all of you are happier than your friends in banking.
Yeah, absolutely. All the time.
I'm like, there are so
Right.
many worse things, and we
I
like
say
who's
this-
complaining?
I'm like, I could be putting the tips on shoelaces, like instead of what I'm doing. Like, I cannot
Exactly.
complain. I cannot,
Exactly.
because that's somebody's job.
Amazing, incredible advice. So I can't have this panel take place with all these amazing, incredible, powerful women. And I'm the founder of Her Agenda. And thanks, Alex, for being here. Alex, actually, you're making history because I've never actually had a Her Agenda panel with
Oh, wow.
wow.
You're the first. That's amazing.
I'm honored. But the reality is the media industry is still male-dominated in terms of position of power and
That's right. We don't like you.
decision-making.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
So how can women really make sure that their talent is not being overlooked or taken for granted as they look to grow and build a career in this field?
So look, I think that's a challenge for anybody, but it's certainly, the reality is it's harder for women and minorities to get promoted. It just is. I mean, we can pretend all day that it's not, but it is. So you do have to make sure you're seen. You do have to make sure you're present and visible and contributing at a level that you're not going to get ignored. Women and minorities are often less likely to ask for extra job assignments or press for more money when they're when they're up for a raise. So don't be that person. Think about it. Just always stay as informed as you can about where you should be money-wise, and don't be ashamed, afraid, or hesitant to step up and ask for what is appropriately deserved at your level. The times that I see people stumble more are pay a lot of attention to your relationships at work. A lot of times people are really good at what they do and they know they're good and they don't understand why they're not getting promoted, and it's usually because they're not working well with the people around them. And people who are very focused tend to also sometimes not understand the value of peer relationships. They value their relationships with their boss and their boss's boss, but they'll be dismissive of their peer relationships. And when you want to promote somebody, you always ask about their peer relationships. You always want to know. You don't want to set somebody into your organization that's going to be disruptive to the group. So care about your peer relationships. Think about if the people that work with you every day were asked what it was like to work with you, would they say good things? Life is too short to be miserable at work, and so don't be one of the people that makes people miserable at work. It's often it's usually not talent that holds people back. It's soft skills that holds people back. It's not paying attention to soft skills. It's the stuff you learned in kindergarten. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Be kind, be thoughtful. It's those soft skills that tend to get people in more trouble than actual ability to do the work.
So over my career, I'm not only a female, but I'm also Hispanic. So I am minority, double. With a nice accent.
You're double trouble.
I am double trouble. I think it is what it is. We have to go into a room, we have to be prepared, we have to be humble, we have to like what we do, and we have to be respectful to the people around us. And I think what Valari just said is true. I spend a lot of time, I don't close my door. I actually have a door that has glass. You know exactly when I'm there, when I'm not, or they smell my perfume coming and going. But I spend time at all levels, from the person that cleans the kitchen to the person that, to our vice president of news. And everybody can walk into my office and tell me anything. And I do care when somebody's in trouble, you follow through. So whether we're women, minorities, it doesn't matter. We just have to do our job. And hopefully the males in the room will pay attention, but they do if you do your job. It doesn't really matter if you're a girl, a boy, Hispanic or not.
What really, the type of discrimination that occurs in most businesses, in most companies who are trying not to be discriminatory, and fortunately a lot of companies are really trying not to be. The most discrimination that occurs because people are uncomfortable with someone who's different from them. That's really it's like they don't know why they're not picking that person, but they're not picking that person.
It's a lot of unconscious bias.
Yeah, they don't
as
feel.
women, how do we combat against
Well,
that?
just think about it as you go into the interview. Think about finding common ground.
Right.
So, and think broadly about finding common ground. Are you both mothers? Did you go to the same school? Is there any, if you learn about the person you're interviewing with, are there any similar interests? Try to find common ground that takes away that kind of uncomfortable. It's natural to be uncomfortable with somebody vastly different from you. That's normal. That's being human. So try to find things that bridge that gap.
And that's why
make
that
people
boys
more
club, sorry, I
comfortable.
didn't mean to cut you off, but that's why that boys club, let me use air quotes, has continued to perpetuate for decades and decades, because if you're a white male, and I know this is a generalization, but if you're a white male and you're interviewing someone and it's like all of a sudden you connect on sports and you're like talking about, the game, blah, blah, whatever, and then you have, I'll just use myself, a black female who comes in and you're like, oh, what do I talk to her about? You're gonna think you're gonna feel more comfortable with the person who's like you. And by the way, sometimes if you are a female or if you're a minority, you might feel more comfortable with another minority. It's the unconscious bias, as you said. But I think that is the best advice in terms of interviews that you could give, is like find that common ground. It doesn't even matter what gender, what just to get the job, find the common ground, because that's a connection that is going to make that conversation more comfortable. And people want to hire people they want to be around.
Exactly.
So it doesn't matter in the end, it shouldn't, and it doesn't matter in the end what color your skin is or what you have boobs or you don't have boobs, you know? Like, I
So
guess
what
males
I
have
tell
boobs
our
too.
managers, because the only way you ever knock down this bias and stop it is the managers who are hiring have to be aware of where the biases exist. And I think a lot of times what happens is we want to pretend we're not biased, or I have no biases. So I have nothing to deal with because I have no biases. That's the wrong approach. Everybody in the world has biases. It's part of living and growing up and being a person. What you have to learn is how to not have your hiring decisions impacted by biases. So what I tell our managers is if you've gotten it down to the top, 2 or 3 people, and you are leaning towards the person that's most like you, and you can't articulate why, then interview the other 2 people again. Bring them back in. Because the uncomfortable part of someone being different tends to happen in the first time you meet them. And then they become people and you stop seeing the differences. It's like you relate to them and all the differences start to fall away. So give them another shot, because if you can't articulate why you're favoring this person, then it's probably because I'm just more comfortable with that person.
I have so much to ask each and every one of you, but I don't want to dominate the whole conversation because I know that the audience has a lot of very specific questions for each and every one of you. So if there's the person here, I'm not sure who from YPN, who will be taking the mic around. If any of you have a
pass the
question.
mic on either side.
Okay, great. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. If you can introduce yourself first, say your name, where you work, and then ask your question.
Right here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Shannon Clash. I actually just started as an associate producer for NBC News for coverage. I just moved here last weekend, so very much new.
Welcome to New York.
Thank you. I have 2 quick questions. First, what is the first thing you go to get your news, whether it's New York Times, whether it's Shade Room, wherever you go wake up to get your news, what's the first thing you go to? And second, we kept talking about coming full circle. Who is that mentor to you from the beginning of your career, and what was the word of advice that has continued to help you throughout your career?
No, good questions.
I'll start because it's
Double
easy.
question.
I wake up to the Today Show. I do. It's just my TV. I sleep with the TV on, so I wake up and I just click to NBC, and that's and plus the news alerts that you get, whether it's Google or CNN or whatever. And the mentor I have had many mentors, but the best advice I think that I got was when I was working at a company early in my career, and I felt that challenge of like, oh, something's not right. Like I don't remember if it was like I wasn't getting promoted or I wasn't clicking with the boss I had, or something wasn't right. And the person who was my mentor was a previous boss there who had gone on, so he didn't work there anymore. And I must have been complaining to him, whatever, and all of a sudden I heard him say, I had an out-of-body experience because I heard him say, well, if you're not happy, then leave. And I was like, oh, like that was harsh and good and exactly what, because all of a sudden I heard myself, I saw myself, this, that, and this happened and that happened, whatever. And it was like, what it was saying to me is like, take control of your life, It's like, don't sit there and just complain about it, like do something about it. Either fix the problem or decide that, it can't be fixed and it's time to move on. And I just always kept that in my head of like, sometimes it's okay to leave. And I've told people that if you're not getting what you want and you think you've done all you can do, then leave, so.
So I do Google Alerts, NBC. I have NBC now, and WNBC, Telemundo 47, Telemundo Network, BBC, and CNN. And advice, the same thing. If you're not happy, leave. You have to wake up every morning and go to work and work with the people around you. So be true to yourself. It's risky and it's nerve-wracking, But at the end of the day, it will pay off if you're doing what you want to do every day.
And that doesn't mean like wake up that morning and
And-
say,
and
I'm
decide,
out.
no,
You
no.
know, like, I mean, like do your job, take your time, look for another job, and then leave when you have it. Like, don't do like what that airline flight attendant did, where he like jumped out of the plane. I'm out. Yeah, yeah.
Also, when you leave the door open, do the
Yes,
right way, because
yes.
I've ended up working, actually, my direct boss right now was my competitor in New York for 10 years. We stayed friends, we knew each other before. You never know who's gonna work with you or who you're gonna work for, who's gonna be your boss.
Right.
So never, ever, ever get up and say, I'm leaving.
Right.
Hello.
Do it the right
I
way.
used to work here and now I'm back here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, where do you get your news from? And
Oh, Twitter. I'm going straight to Twitter. It has all the links so I can click on everything. I think that's my first place to go for news just because I feel like it's there all at once. And mentor, I don't have a formal mentor. I never had a formal mentor. It's something I kind of regret it, but it also goes to show that you don't necessarily need a mentor. I definitely have people that I've admired and took notes from afar, and they didn't know that they were mentoring me, and I think that's a mistake that some people make, and that they think they have to have that formal, will you be my mentor, check yes or check no, and that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just someone that you admire and someone you will take notes from afar, and they mentor you in an informal way. And so I've always had those kind of relationships or that admiration for certain people in the industry.
and you mentor a lot. So what's the
Yeah, I
common
do.
piece of advice that you give all your
I
mentees?
feel like it has to be organic because I've had mentees where I've been like paired with them, and it's not the same as that mentee that I've organically connected with. And I see the difference, and so people slide through my DMs all the time and are constantly emailing me asking me to be the mentor, and I'm like, it's not that easy. It's not that simple just because I look like I have this really great job. Like, I don't know you, and honestly, you don't know me. You see an appearance and you think I should mentor you, but we don't really have a relationship. And so I think it's really good to have a mentor that you can trust and believe in, and know that a mentor is different from a sponsor. A mentor does not get you a job. A mentor, is sort of there to listen to you, maybe hear you out, buy you pizza one day, you guys kiki and have fun sometimes, but a mentor, a lot of people think a mentor will get you in that door, and that's not the case. You need a sponsor for that, and a sponsor you are not going to meet with on a reoccurring daily basis or even call at the drop of a dime. So knowing the difference between a mentor and a sponsor and finding one if you can, yeah.
I can go next because my answer is the same as Kayla's. Twitter, I'm in the car at 5 in the morning and
Thank
generally
you.
just want to see what's trending really quickly.
Right.
If anything big broke overnight, like you're going to find it right there. You're going to see what's trending. And then I'm just in the newsroom for the rest of the day, so get the news from there. And yeah, I've actually never had an official mentor either. A lot of people I look up to, a lot of people I admire,
Yeah.
a lot of people that have helped along the way. For advice, it's funny, Megyn gave this advice just yesterday, so I'll share it because it impacted me. She was giving advice to somebody that asked her how to make it on camera. She was young, I think going to journalism school, and Megyn said, go make mistakes. Don't pursue this perfect career in media and journalism. Like, you're not gonna get there right away. Go do other things, go mess up. Like not anybody, but a lot of people can learn the skills of how to read on camera, but if you don't have the experiences, you're never going to connect to anybody behind that camera. If you don't have faults, if you don't have real life experiences to fall back onto, you're never going to create that connection. And that resonated because I also think it applies to what everyone's been talking about here tonight. Find the common ground.
Yeah.
So you're never going to connect in real life, in your job, in your careers, if you don't have real life experiences. So when you're humbled, when you have failure, when great things happen, when bad things happen, all of those, carry them with you as badges of honor. And
Rick, I'm sorry.
that'll will connect you. No, go ahead.
I have another piece of advice I want to share. Sorry, really quick. Hoda, I was interviewing Hoda on a red carpet one time, and she said something to me that really resonates with me all the time, and she told me, you don't take no personal. I think she said she had gotten 11 plus, maybe, I think that was the number, 11 no's before she got that one yes. And it's that one yes that changed her life, and you really can't take no personal because sometimes you're knocking on the door of someone, someone referred to as a grocery list. You're knocking on the door for someone, and you're like, hi, I'm the carrots, and they're like, I got a fridge full of carrots. I need lettuce. Can you give me lettuce? And if you're not what they need at that moment, it doesn't mean that you're not good enough. You're just not what they need at that moment, and to not take that no personal.
Any other questions? Right here.
Hello, I'm here today. I'm a freelance videographer, and I'm also the host and creator of The Real Effect, which is a weekly entertainment news show. So my question is, during your career, what was your biggest downfall or mistake, and how did you evolve and get through that adversity?
I already told you I suppressed the bad things.
So for me, it was I took a job after a big layoff, and I opened my own business, and that was very hard. But I took a job in a company I used to work for, and it was not what I thought it would be. So I was very disappointed. I learned from it, and because of that job, I have this job now.
I always encourage people to take chances and not play it safe. I mean, media in itself is a very sort of not predictable industry, but to take chances, so often you want to play it safe and you want to, take this path that someone else has taken or do what you think you should do, but really be open to opportunity, take chances, because once you're open, you'll find yourself in a position, in a place that you never even dreamed of or never even knew was possible. So be open.
Be flexible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the big thing is know that you can make mistakes. I think what I run into most when I mentor minorities and women is they think they can't make mistakes. White men tend to realize they can make mistakes, survive them, and move on, and the world will be fine. Where women and minorities are like, oh my God, I'm going to make one mistake and my career is over. I could fill this room with the mistakes I made in my career. And some of them are doozies.
Is there one that you can share?
And here I am.
Is there one that you could share that stands out? Where it was so long ago where it won't matter if you mention it now?
One that really stands out. New York was involved. It was the first time I went for it. This is terrible. The first time I went for a department head job at a television station. There was a party up here, an industry party. I went to the party. The other managers that I went to the party with kept us out all night. I remember being like at Ray's Pizza and playing dollar bingo, at like, I don't know, 4 a.m. in the morning. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to catch a 7 o'clock train back to the station. So I run to my hotel room, which I had not been in for 2 minutes, and I take a shower and I get on the train. I'm on the train and in walks the general manager, sits down beside me, and starts asking me all these questions about the job I'm going for. And I am blurry-eyed. I can't say my name. This gets worse. So I do the best I can answering the questions, but the whole time my head, the person on my shoulder is going, what are you saying? You're not making any sense. So I'm like in this panic trying to answer all the questions and tell him how I'm going to be the most amazing manager he ever hired. We get to the train station, I'm like, whoosh, we're at the train station. I start working, I don't have a car, can I ride with you?
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like, okay, gets in my car. I can't find my receipt to get out of the train thing. This gets worse. I back into a great thing, a column. I back into a column. So he's in the car. I'm back into the column, and I can't find the way to get out of the. And I got the job. Wow.
I'm still how did you get the job though? Because you didn't do as bad as you think you did in your mind? Or?
I don't know. The whole thing was such a disaster, but I don't know how I survived it, but I did.
Okay.
If you can make it through that, clearly you
Yeah,
can
clearly.
Okay. So we are just out of time, but I do want to give a chance to have someone ask a question if you do have a really, really strong question about something that we haven't talked about yet. I think. Okay, you're unsure,
like
so right here in the back.
Hello, my name is Whitney Carla. I work with Carla & Co. LLC, brand management, image consulting, and PR. My question is, with the recent acquisition of Husay by Viacom, where do you guys see influencer marketing and how it relates to media and companies? And is that something that you see really thriving and breaking down doors in the future?
I saw it a lot in my previous job because I worked at Revolt, which hopefully most people know at this point is Sean Combs's TV network. And that was every day we talked about influencers because we were targeting millennials, and that is something Puff is really into, is like getting those influencers. And there is an expression that we need to be the influence that influenced the influencers. I don't know if anyone's ever heard that, but Andre Harrell said that, and it like became a mantra at the company. And I think that it's something that I've seen become a little bit more important at SyFy more so than USA because it's such a genre brand that there are influencers within that sci-fi genre that are so key that we want to make sure that their voices are heard and that we're speaking in the right way. So USA is a little bit more of a general entertainment, so I haven't seen it be as prevalent. I see it in the SyFy network, and certainly, obviously, it's something like Revolt that is targeting millennials. It's about music. It's about a culture. So I think that it depends on where you are, the more how important it is, I think.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, I do a lot of entertainment, lifestyle content, and coverage. And when I go on for interviews, some of the questions that they ask me is not about my television skills per se, but how many followers do I have?
Right.
Which is crazy. And you're like, well, what does that have to do with my television skills? You know, I can use the prompter. And all. They're like, no, how many followers do you have?
Right.
Do
It's
you have
such
an
a big
audience?
thing now. Yeah.
And it's a major. And also with the way that media is now, this phone, that's the first thing people are watching before they're watching television. So the two are going hand in hand, especially if you're working with a brand or company. They want not only for you to have that audience, for you to have that following, but for you to be able to articulate their points to that audience. So it's not just being an influencer and having numbers, but are you relatable? Can, you know, our audience really engage with you in a way that speaks not only to your brand, but also our brand? So it's really important. I would always tell people to be mindful of their social media. Like, it's not the traditional form, but it's definitely the new form because it's helping get your foot in the door.
And Kèla, just adding on to that, I think that you really found a very strategic way to marry the show pony fluffiness of social media marketing and strategy and growing your audience, but also having the substance behind it.
Yeah.
How do you marry those two things, and was it difficult for you to really own your role as a social media influencer while still being taken seriously as an on-air personality?
I know that influencer word is it's so funny because it sounds so fluffy and it sounds so superficial, like I'm an influencer. But really, for me, it's about being authentic, being sincere and genuine because it's storytelling. That's what social media is, and it's how you tell that story. And simply put, I am a storyteller as a television producer and on-air talent. And so I do the same thing on my social media, and I'm really authentic and I'm genuine in what I share, and I keep it real, through and through. And so it's not just I'm covering this red carpet, but it's how I'm preparing for this red carpet, on the scenes, behind the scenes, and really engaging with my audience, and not sort of identifying with any one person, but more so of who I am. I'm a storyteller. Whether I'm telling the story for NYC TV, BET, or E, I'm a storyteller.
Mm-hmm. So with that said, I would like to close this panel with everyone giving one piece of advice that you would want to share with this audience about how to grow a strong career in the field of media. And then we'll wrap it up, and we'll have some time for networking and post-event mingling. I'm not sure how many people can stay, but we have the room until 8:15. So whoever wants to go first, we don't have to go in
I'll
order.
say more than what was already said. On top of that, I would say keep doing things like this, networking events like this, because you can get so much valuable advice from just sitting for, what was that, for an hour? I don't even know, and I'm sure you walked, I saw a lot of head nodding, which means okay, I get what you're saying, I'm gonna use that. And then, anytime you get the chance to talk to anyone directly, you have more of a chance of hitting me now than you will in the hallway next week.
Yeah, I'll say what I said, have fun and ask questions. So many, it's the fear of not asking. Even when we were talking about growth and progression, sometimes you're just afraid to go to your manager and ask how you're doing, and you want to avoid that awkward conversation, so you don't. So all of a sudden you're 2 years into a job and you don't know. So ask.
And
Just-
and open to the answer.
Yeah, well, yeah, totally, totally.
And I was always sort of taught to speak up, even when you feel like afraid to speak up. You feel like what you have to say doesn't matter, or if it doesn't make sense. But I do remember I was overthinking myself too much because I wanted to represent, my organization well. I was coming from the Emma Bowen Foundation. I also wanted to represent my community well, because being a woman of color, there's not a lot of us in the room. So you feel like sometimes when you speak, you're speaking for an entire community. But someone pulled me to the side one day and was like, when you don't speak up, it seems like you're not interested and that you're not invested. So even if you feel like what you have to say doesn't make sense or you feel unsure about it, still try your hand and put yourself out there. And then as you do it more, you get more comfortable with it.
Yeah, I mean, again, Megyn said this the other day. She is full of wisdom. If you guys ever need more advice, you should just come to a show. I mean, seriously. She has a sign in her office that says, sit in the front row of your life. And that's what she said. She said, take a chair at the table. Like, you don't think you belong at the table, go and sit down. Like, take that front row of your own life and take it by the
I
hands.
literally was just going to say that because I just said it to someone today where we had a pretty senior group of people in a room and someone who was a little bit more junior chose to take a seat that was not at the actual table and kind of the side, even though there were seats available. And I went over, I whispered to her, go take a seat at the table. Always take a seat at the table if it's there, because that's exactly what you just said. It's and I don't know why we feel like, oh, I'm just gonna sit on the side and be quiet. Not gonna succeed.
Yeah.
I think be real and learn something new every day. I do every single day, learn something new from everybody. So, and have fun. You have to enjoy yourself because we work a lot of hours.
Yeah.
Have fun.
It sounds really cliche, but like do the work. I think so often we're like, we want to get there, we want to be successful, you want to like get there ASAP, and you got to do the work and you got to put in the time and you got to be patient. Like, and if you do the work, if you take the initiative, everything you've been hearing on this panel, it happens. It happens, and you open your eyes and you're like, whoa, how did I get here? Doing the work.
I'd say take criticism well. I think that it's hard. You're very invested in your career and you're invested in the work you do, and so criticism can hit you particularly hard when you really deeply care. But when someone takes the time to sit down and really critique your work, they're doing it because they want to make you better. They want you, they want to help you succeed. So if your first reaction in your head is, oh, that's not true, or oh, that's not right, really stop yourself and say, thank you, I'll think about that. Just keep that in at the top of your head when someone is criticizing you. If you start to get overwhelmed and feel like you're taking the criticism personally and not handling it well, just keep at the top of your head, thank you, I'll consider that. Thank you, I'll think about that. Try to be open to criticism. More people want you to succeed than want you to fail. They really do. And at this company, it's just amazing the number of people that are willing to help other people do well. And if they're giving you tough feedback, it's because they're trying to get through to you so that you overcome something and don't have that as a barrier in your career. So
That's great advice.
just really, really think about and don't take it personally like your mother said this to you. Separate the people you love from the people you work with, and take it from the spirit of the people you work with, not if the person you love most in the world said this to you.
Yeah.
Take it as a professional person. They're trying to help you, and even if you don't believe it's true about you, if someone else believes it's true about you, then it's out there. And it's something, if you don't want people believing that about you, it's something you have to correct. So it's still something you're going to have to act on.
Well, Valerie, Christina, Kèla, Alex, Val, thank you all so much. This has been incredible. I wish that we had more time because, I've sent you guys the questions. I had so many other questions I wanted to get to, but there's not enough time. Maybe that means we need to do a part 2 because really the questions I would have asked would have put us on a whole other tangent. But thank you so much for the advice that you shared tonight, and thank you for being such a great audience. I could see you guys taking notes. I could feel the energy that you guys are absorbing everything that was said tonight. So thank you. Let's give our panel a round of applause.